How did a single woman bring the most powerful men in Rome to their knees without ever raising a sword? Between the god of the Nile and the intrigues of the Senate, a figure rose who defied empires, seduced generals, and wrote her name in ink meant to last forever. Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. But behind the myth lies a story of cunning, power, and tragedy that fear dare to tell. Today, we will take you to the heart of ancient Egypt to discover how one woman became a goddess and a regent. So get ready, because today we are going to uncover how Cleopatra conquered not only kingdoms but eternity itself. But before we begin, subscribe to the Might and Regas channel, Nile, and let us know in the comments which other historical figures you would like to see here. Let's travel back in time. On the shores of the Nile Delta, in a city born from the ambition of Alexander the Great, a girl entered the world unaware that she would one day be remembered as a living goddess. Her name, Cleopatra VII Philip. Her destiny to challenge Rome and time itself. Alexandria was no ordinary city. It was a beacon of knowledge, a crossroads of cultures, Hellenistic jewel in the middle of the Egyptian desert. Founded by Alexander the Great and ruled by the Tiamat dynasty, this metropolis pulsed with the power of Greek kings who for generations had governed ancient Egypt as outsiders in sacred lands. In the midst of the legacy, spirit between two worlds, Cleopatra was born, and from an early age, she proved she would not be like the rest. While previous stories spoke Greek and looked down on the language of the people, Cleopatra broke the mold. She was the first of her dynasty to learn Egyptian, to speak it fluently, to look her people in the eye and address them in their own tongue. A political gesture, yes, but also a symbol. She did not only want to rule, she wanted to belong. From a very young age, she was trained as to heir to the throne. Surrounded by scholars educated in philosophy, mathematics, politics, and astronomy, she was no ordinary child, but a mind sharpened like steel. It is said she spoke at least 7 languages, which made her a formidable strategist in an era that power also resided in words. But her childhood was far from peaceful. The Catholic court was a minefield of betrayals, conspiracies, and unchecked ambition. Fathers against sons, brothers against sisters, royal blood granted so safety, only the right to play a dangerous game. Cleopatra learned early on that to survive on Egypt's throne, one had to know when to strike and when to seduce. While her figure was being shaped in the shadows of the palace, the world was watching. Rome was beginning to extend its reach into the eastern Mediterranean, and Egypt, with its gold, its grain, and its mysticism, was the most coveted prize. No one imagined that a young princess born in the midst of declining Hellenistic empire was destined to change the course of history. Cleopatra was still only a child, but her legend had already begun. What if power did not come from the army, but from intelligence? In the heart of a city where books were more valuable than gold and ideas more dangerous than sword, Cleopatra grew up surrounded by the knowledge of the ancient world. Alexandria, more than a capital, was a sanctuary of learning, and there, among marble columns and timeless papyrus scrolls, a queen began forging for her legend. Just steps from the royal palace stood the intellectual jewel of antiquity, the Library of Alexandria. That temple of knowledge housed works from every known culture, from Indian medical treatises to Greek philosophy, from Babylonian geometry to Egyptian poetry. In that environment, where the mind was revered like the gods, Cleopatra absorbed every word, every concept, as if she knew her life would one day depend on her wit. She was not merely beautiful. She possessed a strategic mind capable of debating philosophers, discussing with astronomers, and speaking to diplomats in their native language. It was said she mastered Greek, Egyptian, Latin, Hebrew, Arabic, Persian, and perhaps even more. In a world where alliances were sealed with words, Cleopatra needed no interpreters. She herself was her greatest weapon, but her ambition did not end with knowledge. From a young age, she understood the symbolic power of religion. By associating herself with Isis, the great divine mother of ancient Egypt, Cleopatra did more than crown herself queen. She elevated herself as goddess. The message was clear. She was not merely a ruler. She was the living incarnation of a deity. For people accustomed to venerating sacred, that image was more powerful than any army. Her enemies underestimated her, believing that a woman, even an educated one, could not withstand the brutal game of imperial power. But Cleopatra understood something they did not. The mind controls the sword, and the symbol governs the empire. Every word she spoke, every gesture, every alliance was carefully calculated. In a world ruled by men and dominated by violence, she chose the path of intellect, mastery, and subtle manipulation. And while the world watched her with intrigue, Cleopatra had already begun moving her pieces on the grand chessboard of history. She did not want merely to rule Egypt. She wanted to resist Rome. And for that, it was not enough to be queen. She had to become a myth. But what happens when a brilliant mind meets the most powerful man in the world? In Rome, they had everything except Egypt. And Egypt, in its fading splendor, still possessed what the Romans desired most: reign, treasure, and religion. Armed press, intrigues, an internal civil war, and external threats, Cleopatra was driven from her own throne by her young brother with whom she formerly shared power. But she was not willing to become a footnote in history. While living in exile in the desert, fate or her own ingenuity presented her with a singular opportunity. Rome had arrived in Alexandria, and at the head of its legion stood the most powerful man in the Western world, Julius Caesar. What happened next was no accident. It was strategy. Legend tells that Cleopatra had herself smuggled in to meet Caesar, concealed inside a red carpet, a theoretical interest that marked the beginning of one of the most fascinating encounters in history. But what truly captivated the Roman general was not her beauty, as poets would later claim. but her intelligence, her boldness, her imperial vision. Cleopatra was not seeking a lover, she was seeking an ally. Julius Caesar, hardened by battles and betrayals, immediately recognized the value of the young queen. With his support, Cleopatra regained her throne, and Egypt shone once again, though now under Rome's protective shadow. What began as a political alliance evolved into a personal relationship, a fierce passion between two ambitious and dangerous minds. The scandal in Rome was monumental. How could their most celebrated general father a child with a foreign queen? How could the honor or the statue of Cleopatra in a temple as if she were a Roman goddess? But Caesar cared little for criticism. He was captivated by her. Egypt and Rome, bound by a romance that defied all geopolitical logic. Cleopatra did not merely secure a place in Caesar's heart. She also traveled to Rome with all the splendor of any Eastern goddess. Her presence was so commanding that it stunned the senators. But with power come enemies, and Caesar already had too many. In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated in the Roman Senate. Cleopatra, devastated but not defeated, returned to Egypt. Her son Caesarion was now the living embodiment of the alliance between two great powers, but Rome neither forgave nor forgot. She had lost her protector, but she had not lost the game. For while a new player was rising in Rome, Cleopatra was already preparing her next move. What if the next ally were not only young, but easier to influence? As the echo of Neves still lingered in Roman Senate, and Caesar's blood had not yet dried on the marble, power in Rome became a game without rules. Octavian, Caesarion's adopted son, and Mark Antony, his loyal general, fought for control of the empire's future. Meanwhile, in the south, Cleopatra watched and waited. She knew Rome was wounded. She also knew that wounds open doors. Mark Antony, impulsive, brave, hungry for glory, was the opposite of Julius Caesar. He lacked Caesar's cold calculation, but he possessed the charisma needed to lead legions into war. And when he needed resources, soldiers, and a base in the east, he looked toward Egypt. Cleopatra received him not merely as a queen, but as a living goddess. History tells that her arrival in Tarsus looked like something drawn from myth. A golden badge, purple sails, perfume drifting through the air, celestial music echoing across the water. Mark Antony was not prepared for that. No one would have been. The impact was immediate. He was captivated. But Cleopatra was not seeking love. She was seeking power. And Antony, with his ambition and his need, was the perfect ally to protect Egypt and challenge Rome. Together, they built a relationship that blended pleasure and politics. They surrendered to excess, to lavish celebrations, to alliances that scandalized the Roman Senate. Yet, while they indulged in feasts and promises, tension with the Octavian grew. Rome would not tolerate a foreign queen interfering in its affairs, especially one who called herself the new Isis, and dared to divide the empire alongside her lover. Octavian, shrewd and patient, crafted a dangerous narrative, that of a manipulative queen who had bewitched the Roman hero. To the people, Cleopatra became the Eastern enemy, a symbol of decadence and a threat of Roman civilization. The break was inevitable. War erupted. Cleopatra and Mark Antony faced Octavian's forces in the famous Battle of Octium. But what was meant to demonstrate strength turned into tragedy. Outmatched and surrounded, they failed and the dream of a new empire collapsed. The Roman world was no longer Caesar's. And for Cleopatra, that could mean only one thing: the end was approaching. What does a queen do when even the gods seem to have abandoned her? Rome had already decided there would be no place for a foreign queen in its new order. And though Cleopatra still wore gold and spoke like a goddess, she knew her world was crumbling. Egypt, the last bastion of the Hellenistic age, stood alone. After the defeat at Actium, Mark Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, a city that had once shone as a beacon of knowledge and now prepared to burn. Surrounded by Octavian's army, betrayed by allies, seemingly abandoned by the gods, the lovers faced their fate like tragic legend. Antony, in despair, received false news of Cleopatra's death. Without hope, he fell upon his own sword. Mortally wounded, he was carried to her. It is said he died in her arms, wrapped in silk and tears, while the palace seemed to turn to symbolic ashes. It was the end of the general, but not yet of the queen. Cleopatra, cunning to the very last moment, tempted to negotiate with Octavian. She offered riches, power, even her own life, but it was all in vain. Octavian did not seek gold. He sought the ultimate symbol of surrender. Cleopatra, in chains, paraded in his triumph through Rome, but she would never allow it. According to accounts, dressed in her royal garment and adorned as Isis, Cleopatra locked herself inside her mausoleum with two royal attendants, and there, amid myth and serpent, she chose her end. Some say she used poison. Others claim it was a nasp, a sacred cobra that delivered the fatal bite. What is certain is that she died as she had lived, sovereign, strategic, and wrapped in majesty. With her death, the Ptolemaic dynasty ended. Egypt ceased to be a kingdom and became a Roman province. Her son Caesarion was executed. Her treasures were plundered. Her praise dismantled. But Octavian, soon to become Augustus, knew he had lost something that could never be conquered: symbolic eternity. Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, had woven her legend so powerfully that not even Rome could erase her from collective memory. It was not merely the end of a woman, it was the end of an era. But can death extinguish the fire of myth? Rome prevailed. The legend marched across the sand of the Nile. Egypt became another jewel in the empire's crown. Yet, among the ruins of the pre-Nile palaces and silent temples, one figure refused to disappear. Cleopatra, the victor, wrote history. And Octavian, now the first Roman emperor, Augustus, and sure to shape the image of the defeated queen. In official records, she was portrayed as a dangerous seductress, a foreigner who had corrupted two great Roman men. Her cunning was recast as treachery, her power as manipulation, but the truth, as always, is far more complex and far more fascinating. Cleopatra was not merely a lover. She was an unparalleled strategist, an educated ruler, a woman who confronted the greatest power of her time with intelligence, diplomacy, and boldness. While others ruled with the sword, she ruled with symbols. While others sought domination, she sought survival and transcendence. As the centuries passed, her image took on many forms. She was portrayed as a goddess, a sorceress, a heroine, a martyr, a symbol of the mysterious East, of emerging feminism, of tragic love. Writers, painters, filmmakers, and thinkers reinvented her again and again. Cleopatra did not die in her tomb. She was reborn in the world's imagination. No other Egyptian pharaoh has endured in collective memory as she has, not because of military conquest, but because of something far more powerful: her ability to transform history into myth. Today, more than 2,000 years later, we remain captivated. We wonder what her face truly looked like, whether she really used poison, whether she sincerely loved Mark Antony. But above all, we ask ourselves, how one woman managed to challenge the greatest empire in history and emerge immortalized, because death can stop a heart, but not a legion. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video and are passionate about this kind of content, subscribe to the Might and Readers channel so you don't miss upcoming videos and discover more fascinating stories. See you in the next video.